Victoria Pearson, but you can call me V, and I have not left the UK since 1999. Now, I'm not a maths girly, but I'm pretty sure that's more than 25 years. I've never left the country as an adult, but today I am off to Hamburg. I'm a little bit nervous about it though, because the reason that I'm going is to act as a sighted guide for my friend Sassy, who is 100% blind, and she's a very well-seasoned traveller, so I'm sure she's got this, no problem. But I am very anxious about it. I'm very anxious about finding the right places. I'm very anxious about not walking her into things. I'm very anxious about, getting lost or something like that. And my nerves are jangling. Now, having got home, I realised that I didn't actually film any of the stuff that I packed to show you. And that was probably a good thing, because I took one lot of nonsense. I only used about a third of what I took with me. And I really shot myself in the foot having such a heavy suitcase that I had to drag behind me. It was very, very bad for my shoulders. I need one with 4 wheels for next time that's a lot lighter. And I also need to take a lot less stuff. That being said, I did just want to show you this one thing, because this made the whole trip so much easier for me. It just looks like a bag, doesn't it? It's super light. It has a little mesh pocket on this side, and then it has a little Velcro pocket on this side, which is quite stiff Velcro. And then it's got this carry strap, which is long enough to fit across my body. It's quite light, but the real magic is what is inside this. So as some of you know, especially if you've watched this before, I have a chronic illness. I've got a hypermobile spectrum disorder, and it comes with a whole host of other comorbid conditions and various little health annoyances. And one of those is that if I'm not sitting like this with my legs crossed and I have to have my feet down on the floor like a normal human grown-up, I get very, very fatigued very quickly. I start to feel sick, because of blood pooling in the lower half of my body. I can, if I leave it for long enough, end up fainting. So I got this. This is the first accessibility aid that I have ever bought for myself that actually works, and I love it so much. I'm never going to go anywhere without this again. When you unzip it, all of his guts pop out like that. Boom, got yourself a little chair. On the floor, it is just the right size to act as a little footrest. I also used it to actually sit on a couple of times. It's not the most comfortable thing to sit on, but as an emergency seat, if you can't get hold of another one, it does the job. I'm not the lightest in the world. I think I'm around 78 kilos. And so it took my weight just fine, but I wasn't like jumping on it or anything. It is a little bit tricky to learn to fold up, because you just have to detach everything and you've got to cross it over itself in a particular way so that it can get back into itself in the little bag. Fold it into its little bag again. It can be a little bit trickier to do that part, so I would recommend practicing if you're going to use it on a holiday or something like I did, or on a big trip out. But once it's folded back into its bag, it's very, very light to carry, and because it's got these little pockets, if I wanted to, I could use this as a handbag. The only reason that I didn't was because the pockets being where they are means that when it's unfolded as a seat, you would have to put your feet on your stuff. I think if they were to add a little zip-on, zip-off pocket on here, you could replace your entire handbag with this and just have that little place for your phone and your cards. I would also prefer to have a slightly more decorative or nicer looking strap than the plastic parts if I was using it as a handbag. But that being said, they're very strong, they're very durable, it didn't break. And as well, because I was guiding somebody a lot of the time when I was wearing it, I had it across my body and I was leaning my hand on the strap to create a crook in my elbow for my friend to hold on to. And so it did have the extra weight pulling on it of my arm as well, and it has survived that just fine. I've bought other accessibility aids before. I've bought compression sleeves and walking canes and all sorts of things like that. This has been the thing that has actually actively helped me. It has been probably the best accessibility aid I've ever bought for myself, and I would strongly recommend, if you, not just if you have hypermobility and you need to keep your feet up, but also if you have any kind of dysautonomia, POTS, or low blood pressure even, where raising your feet can help you feel better. This is definitely worth carrying around with you, and it is the thing that I'm most glad that I took with me to Hamburg. The journey to the airport itself wasn't too bad. We started at Leagrave Station, where the passenger assistance was great, and they even held the train for us when it came into the wrong platform unexpectedly. London was a lot, and the assistants there just didn't turn up, so we were having to just cope with it in whatever way we could. But we made it. It was all right. I haven't been on a plane since the year started with a 19, and for my first trip in 26 years, the only person that I've got coming with me is my blind friend. But luckily, she's very experienced at this travel stuff, and she's only slightly on the verge of killing me because I've knocked her over several times already. I'm very sorry. Say hi, Sassy.
Hi!
So we are here in the BA lounge, even though we're flying economy. Sassy, how have you snuck us in here?
Well, I've actually got status, so thanks to building a lot of points with BA and flying here, there and everywhere, I have silver status, which allows me to have myself and one guest come in, so that's why we're here.
And that's awesome, because they've got the free alcohol here, which Sassy needs because I've knocked her over several times. It was really overwhelming though. I've never been in an airport this big before, and I'm trying to read the signs and work out where we're going, and I could see the barrier in my periphery of my vision, but my brain just said I had a good 2 meters clearance there. I did not.
That's not your fault though, because the tensor barriers are always really close together. Then you're trying to guide a blind person whilst dragging 2 suitcases, because I'm holding onto one, you're holding onto 2 technically. So I don't blame you, but obviously I am a massive ass hat and I got very grumpy. So
thing is though, it would have been a lot easier had we had passenger assistance that you had pre-booked. And so we've had a whole saga with passenger assistance today, and I'm actually shocked at how badly it goes, because I just assumed, as somebody that doesn't use passenger assistance, that would be something that goes really, really smoothly and everybody knows what they're doing and turns up where they're supposed to be. Apparently I'm just dumb.
Yeah, you would think, wouldn't you? Especially when you pre-book it and then you book it again whilst you're there, and the people are meant to tell the people ahead of time. No, nobody came to meet us, and then it was this big kerfuffle. And one of my favourite moments was when the guy, bearing in mind I'm using a long white cane, it's right in front of me, and he said, "What assistance do you need?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, do you need a wheelchair?" I was like, "Doesn't look like I'm in a
just
wheelchair."
walked here. that part's okay.
If I'd have known you could just magic me wheelchairs everywhere, I'd happily be pushed around.
Yeah.
The only kind of good people here have been the BA staff.
They've been brilliant, yeah.
But the people at Heathrow Terminal 5, you suck. Okay?
Leegrave passenger assistance was very good though. They're always very friendly there, aren't they? But yeah, everywhere at sort of a main station or a place where you'd expect it to go really smoothly has been rubbish. And so, that's why they have to supply it with the free alcohol as well.
Yes. So this is I think it's a berry vodka with Sprite, and you're having...
I've got a pink gin and Sprite as well.
Nice. So we'll cheers to that. And off to Hamburg we go and talk about the beauty that is accessibility and technology. I will tell you more when we get there.
Thankfully, the passenger assistance to get us actually onto the plane did turn up, which was fantastic. It always amazes me, though, that passenger assistants who know they're meeting a blind person will come and just stand silently in front of that blind person and not even let them know that they're there. If I hadn't been with Sassy, she would have just sat there and continued drinking her drink and had no idea that passenger assistance had come for her. But there we go. It was very, very nice, actually, being in boarding group 0, because it means that we just get to walk past all of the people that are waiting and queuing and get across and just go sit in our own little waiting area and wait to go on the plane. So that was nice. Being first on the plane is nice in one way, especially for me, getting onto a plane for the first time in a long time. I wasn't sure where my seat was and stuff, and I managed to get a little peep out of the window of the person in front of me before the plane started to fill up. However, I had a, quote, window seat that had no window. I was so disappointed. But we made it in the end. Our baggage came out together, which was very, very nice. And then we hopped in a taxi in Hamburg to go to the Mercure Hotel. Bear in mind, if you are going to Hamburg, there are 4 Mercure hotels and you need to know which one you're going to. And it's very, very hard to say the place names. So maybe have that written down and ready to show your taxi driver in a helpless way so that he can drive you to the actual hotel that you're supposed to be at. We made it. Passenger assistance was a nightmare. I was the worst sighted guide in the world and actually threw my friend over several times. But I've made it to the hotel room now. Yay! Here we are. This is one of the Mercure hotels. Got my little wardrobe there just inside the door. Little bathroom in here, I think. With no light. There's the light. Little bathroom. Beauty little bathroom. I like those tiles though. They've got a sort of nautical motif. Nice big mirror there. Hello. And I've got sort of 2 single beds together, but I don't mind that because I'm here on my own. Got a little footstool which I like. Nice little working area there with a safe. Plenty of coffee, we like that. Oh, and I've got water, that's nice. And then, this is my view, which, okay, isn't the worst ever, is it? Ta-da! And then the place that we are going to a conference is literally that building there. So yay. Loved this map of Hamburg on the wall, hated that there had been no attempt whatsoever to make it central. I am back in the hotel and looking a bit less pale than I was, I think, but not massively. I came over feeling so sick in the taxi from the airport. I felt a little bit queasy on the plane as well, but it wasn't too bad. But when we landed and got in the taxi to come here, oh, I felt so ill and I have not been able to shake it. So we just went to a Lebanese restaurant around the corner and the food smelled so amazing. But as soon as they put it in front of me, I was like, oh, this is going to make me sick. And yeah, I think if I'm planning a trip like this again, I need to plan to do nothing when I get here so that I can just sleep off the actual travel day. It's about 8:30 here and I'm going to sleep already. I woke up feeling loads better, which is just as well because we had a full day of work ahead of us. So I am here at AIX today. We're at the Udum stand and my friend Sassy is testing out a super accessible plane seat that she can control from her phone. How cool is that? It was very cool to be able to watch my friend in her job as an accessibility consultant, and she was fantastic at presenting their product as well. Access IQ should be really, really proud of themselves for getting her to help with their product launch, because even I wanted to buy it, and I'm nothing to do with an airline. It was fantastic. After that, we had a little wander around, and we got to see some very cool stuff at the AIX. I was very scared of getting lost, but eventually we got some lunch, including these prawn noodles for Sassy, a pretzel for me, which was unfortunately cold, and this nice Mandarin cheesecake. So Sassy and I have just been to our first day at AIX. How did you find it?
Yeah, brilliant. We're very excited for the future of aviation. So airlines, get your checkbooks out.
Yay! I was shattered while we were working at AIX, but when we left, we had beautiful blue skies. It was really, really sunny, and it rejuvenated me again, which was a good thing, because after I'd spent some time waiting in this waiting area for Sassy to come out of her room, we went off for dinner together with some of the Access IQ group, and it was really, really lovely to be able to drive through and see more of Hamburg, because so far we'd only seen a tiny little bit. I got this real impression in the city that every time you turned the corner, it felt like you were in a completely different city because of all the different styles of buildings. Like here, it kind of reminded me of Brighton because the buildings were so big and grand, but then it sort of faded into this kind of brutalist, almost post-Soviet sort of look about it. And I really, really loved the contrast of those grand buildings mixed with these more square, more brutalist, more plain-looking buildings. I did find it a little bit sickly driving on the wrong side of the road, but I do get motion sickness as a passenger anyway. That's why I'm the driver of our family. And so I had come prepared this time after my sticky feeling in the taxi before, and I was already wearing my C-bands, which I have to say really do help. I've no idea if it's just a placebo effect or what, but I didn't feel sick when we arrived at the restaurant. It was a German restaurant and I wasn't sure if they would have anything particularly vegetarian on their menu, but they did have a few vegetarian things on their menu. I ended up eating Italian actually, but I have to say that the bread that was served with this German meal was actually to die for. It was so, so good. It came with whipped butter, which is what I had, but it also came with a sort of tuna butter and something else I can't remember because I didn't try it, but it also had green salt, which is a big thing in Germany, and I really, really liked the green salt. As somebody that needs to keep the salt intake up, it was very, very cool to have the excuse to just sprinkle it all over my bread. The meal was great and I returned to the hotel that night feeling absolutely shattered. It was a lot quieter at this time of night as well. There wasn't nearly as much sort of traffic outside, and so I actually found it quite easy to sleep. The next day at AIX was very fun. We did much the same sort of things, but this time I got to step out for a little walk on my own, and I was glad that I took this little walk on my own because there were bicycles on the street everywhere, there were tables and chairs on the street everywhere, everyone was double parked, and it would have been an absolute nightmare to guide my friend through it. But it was such a pretty little neighbourhood. Now, I know that not everyone will agree that the graffiti here is gorgeous, but I like street art, and I think you can tell a lot about a place by the kind of things that are written on the walls there. And so when I was walking through, seeing anti-fascist graffiti and pro-trans graffiti and all these sorts of things, it felt like a nice, safe neighbourhood, even though parts of it did look a little bit run down. There were lots of children playing in the street, there were lots of friendly people. When I got a little bit turned around and a little bit lost, people helped me find my way, even if they didn't speak English as their first language. And it just felt like a really nice and friendly neighbourhood, even if it could do with a little lick of paint maybe. I did at this point have a little drama when I found a lost child who didn't speak English, and I do not speak a lick of German, and accidentally spoke to him in Russian. He replied to me in Russian, which shocked me greatly because he was only about 3. And eventually I managed to find a police officer to hand him off to. There was a big police presence around, probably because of the size of the conference. It was absolutely massive and there were so many people there. And so we quite often saw police walking around on the street. So when I found the lost child, I remembered that I had seen a policeman only a few minutes before and managed to reunite him with his parents and then get back to where Sassy was waiting for me. And she must have felt like she'd been waiting for me for ages and ages and ages. But hey, at least I returned with a story for her. That night we went and got Japanese food. It was my first time eating Japanese food and it was absolutely delicious. I definitely want to try more Japanese food again. And even though it was quite a short walk to the hotel, we ended up getting a taxi so we could drop some other people off and go in the long way. And so I got to see a little bit more of Hamburg again. And again, it felt like a completely different city. The buildings were all different style. It felt like a very different vibe in that part of the city. And I really, really liked having the chance to have a little drive through on it. Although it was a busy city, and it is in fact Germany's second biggest city, it kind of felt quite quiet when we were driving through in the evening. This is about sort of 9 o'clock-ish. It's just starting to get dark, and there aren't the sheer weight of people and cars that there were during the day, which I would normally expect in a city. If we go to somewhere like London, it is busy 24 hours a day, but here it seems that after 9 p.m, everybody's kind of just winding down for the night, and it gives it a really chilled out vibe. We were actually getting to the point where we were starting to think that maybe we were a little bit lost and maybe we had kind of gone the very, very long way. But then in the skyline in the distance, I could see the huge television tower that is right outside the window of my hotel room. And so I knew we were headed in vaguely the right direction. There it is over there. You can see it just round this corner. And I knew we were heading in the right sort of direction. The roads in this part of the city are really, really wide. I don't think we saw one that wasn't at least 6 lanes, which you would expect then to be a lot of zipping in and out of traffic and a lot of people shouting at each other and horns blaring and things like that. But there really wasn't. Everybody here is just a really, very considerate driver. And when we saw an ambulance go by, every car on the road moved to the side to create a central lane for the emergency vehicles to go through. And I thought that was really considerate and very, very nice of them. In fact, traffic issues wise, the only issue I had was with cyclists. There are a lot of them in Hamburg and cycle path is on the path. And there isn't really any major differentiation between the look or feel of the textures of the pavement and the bike path, which can make it quite challenging if you are guiding a blind person because people go really, really quickly. Why has this policeman got a lightsaber? What is that all about? It is my last day in Hamburg and my first chance to actually have a little explore around the city, so we're going to get out of the hotel and go for a walk. The plan is to head to that park right there. We come into the garden down these steps, which are quite shallow, and you probably can manage it if you've only got limited mobility. But if you can't manage steps at all, it does have a little slopey path down here. But it is cobbled, so I don't know how easy that would be to come down or how comfortable it would be to be able to come down. But they do at least have that access. It tells you that it's an 11% gradient. So we're walking around this garden, and I'm with my friend Sassy from Blind Girl Adventures. There she is. And of course, it's a bit boring for her to just walk around a garden. And so
It's very pretty smell.
It does smell nice. But I was really pleased that we found something that she could sort of have a feel of. But I have absolutely no idea what it is. So when I'm trying to describe it to her, I'm like, it's a big metal thing. I don't know. So it'd really help me out if you would tell me in your comments what this is, because I have literally no idea. I actually ended up looking it up while we were sheltering from the rain in this little gazebo in the rose garden, and it turns out that that was a nautical compass. The more you know. Luckily, the little rain squall that we had to sit through was very, very short-lived, which was nice because I didn't have a hood and neither of us had an umbrella. But the rain brought out all the smells of the earth and the grass and the flowers, and I think that actually having that little rain squall made it a much nicer sensory experience for my friend, who was only really experiencing the park through my narration and the smells and textures around the place. We probably only ended up exploring about a quarter of this massive garden. It was so big, and it was really nice to walk around. It had these trees that were very sort of like whomping willow-like. Some of them were sort of fenced off because they were so big and old. And then you had these beautiful little areas where it was like rock gardens and things like that. If you've ever wondered how a blind girl takes a picture of a friend in front of a stack of rocks, this is how. I press record on my phone, I gave it to Sassy, and I sort of pointed her in the right direction and said, I'm going to go and pose a little bit in front of here and try and get a thumbnail, and then I ran back again. It sort of worked, okay? There was also these beautiful little ponds and lakes and little Japanese-style houses in here, and my friend must have really gotten over me walking her into the barrier at Heathrow because she allowed me to guide her across stepping stones there, and I was really proud that she put that trust in me. I mean, I could see that they were about 2 meters wide, but she had absolutely no idea, and so I was very proud that she put that trust in me, and I did not tip her in the water either. We wanted to have a look at the apothecary garden as well, but it was locked up. There's some quite toxic plants in there, so it might have been because of the time of year. I'm not really sure. The signs were obviously all in German. We really wanted to explore more of Hamburg, but we both have chronic pain, so we ended up coming back to the hotel and sitting in their rather nice lobby for a little while, drinking the free tea and coffee. I can't believe it's time to go already. I feel like I've only just got here. Hamburg is absolutely beautiful, and it feels like every time you turn the corner, you're in a different city completely. I'm definitely gonna have to come back here and explore some more another time. Driving back through Hamburg again to get to the airport, it once again felt like we were in a completely different city with different styles of buildings again. It was a lot more green in this area. There were a lot more trees and a lot more plants around, and it felt almost a bit more suburban than the area that we had been in before. The journey home was a bit eventful, to be honest, and I didn't really film a lot of it, so I'll tell you about it now. When we got to Hamburg, we did have assistance, which was really nice, but they disappeared before we actually needed them, and then my friend got stuck in the fast pass queue when it wouldn't let me through the fast pass queue. I had to go and find a police officer to help us out. It was all a bit of a nightmare. So we are finally sitting down at the airport lounge in Hamburg. We got here at about 1:20 and stood in a queue waiting for a staff member to turn up for nearly an hour. My feet are on fire, Sassy's feet are on fire, we are both grumpy, and there is not nearly enough free alcohol in this lounge. We finally got back to London after circling Heathrow Airport for long enough to make me feel queasy again, and battled our way through the trains. We finally got on the last train to get home. We were assured it was stopping where we were stopping, and then it did not stop at the stop that it was supposed to. It did slow right down to bait us into thinking that we were going to stop. And at that point, my friend Sassy kind of lost it a little bit and decided to unleash all of the swear words that she knew, which was unfortunate because the chair in front of us contained very small children. But luckily, as a mum of 4, I had a bag full of stickers, so we were able to make friends with the parent and the children again after that and apologise for the new words that we had taught them. And finally, we got off a station about 2 stops beyond where we wanted to be, actually, but Sassy's husband managed to come and collect us from there. It wasn't too far from my home, and they got to drop me home safely. It was very eventful, and I'm not sure that I enjoyed the train parts of the journey as much, but It would have been a lot easier had we not had to stand for an hour at the BA check-in at Hamburg waiting for somebody to arrive. That part ended up causing us both a lot of pain, and so we ended up being a little bit stroppy on the way home. But the takeaway is that we are still friends after all of that, and we've managed to get through a 4-day trip together, and we are still friends. Nobody hates anybody, nobody lost anything, nobody got hurt, nobody got lost, and it was all very successful, and I did not need to anxiety out about it at all. So I hope that you enjoyed that little jaunt around Hamburg. I wish it was longer. I wish that I had got to see more things to show you, because the area that I was in, I absolutely fell in love with. It was absolutely beautiful, and I would love to go back. So, you know, visit Hamburg. If you're listening, you could send me back for a more thorough look around. That would be amazing. I would love to go again, and I really enjoyed the time that I spent there. Well worth going, and I'm so pleased that I finally got that stamp in my passport. So join me on Monday for my next vlog, where I think I am actually talking about Hamburg again. I've been invited on to my friend's podcast because they have been to 100 countries before they're 50, and I'm just hitting my first one in my 40s. And so we were going to have a little chat about that. And if I get the option to, I will be sharing that with you next week. If not, we might be starting my DIY adventures of turning my teenage boy's bedroom into a home office now that he's moved out. I really need the office space. It's going to be a huge task though to make it into a more livable, workable space for me, because it has been very geared towards teen boy and it's not very geared for me working on there. But it's going to take me a long time to do, so I might take you along on the journey of doing that. But I also have some other ideas on the go as well, and so it will depend which thing I finish first of what I show you next week. And my next witchy one, which will be in a couple of weeks' time, is going to be that difference between the justice spell and the revenge spell, because a couple of people have asked me about that, and I had forgotten to record that when I nearly burnt my house down demonstrating it before. And so, not very on brand for me, given I'm always telling you about fire safety in my witchy videos. But anyway, that's what my next witchy video will be about in a few weeks. We've got a few crafty videos coming up, and then we've got a lot of office refurb coming up as well. But if you can't wait until then to see me again, I will be here every single morning in your shorts, taking a great big deep breath, letting you know what I'm grateful for. And I would love when you join in with that, because let me tell you, ever since I started doing these daily gratitude videos, it feels like everything has been going my way. And I think that listing the things that you're grateful for each day actually really does magnetize more of that kind of energy towards you. I never really believed in that before I started doing these videos. Like, I didn't believe that me listing my gratitude each day could help me with my manifestations. But I have to say that since doing this daily gratitude every day with you guys, all of my stuff has been coming in exactly what I ordered. And so join in with me in the morning, tell me what you're grateful for each day, and then come back and tell me what you're manifesting once you've got that as part of your daily habit. So like and subscribe, or don't, I'm not your mum. But either way, you have yourself a beautiful week.